Let's continue with the Winter Woods vest by knitting the hem. As a quick reminder, this is the garment that we're knitting. It's unisex and fits a wide variety of shapes, and we'll be knitting the hem. Vests can be a really useful garment because they are unisex and they're easy to fit because you have to fit only the torso. You don't have to worry about sleeve length. They offer a lot of warmth with a lot of freedom of movement. So you may want to knit other vests. And if you do, here's my book, Vests with Men in Mind. They're with men in mind because men tend to like them a lot, but in fact, they're unisex and anybody can enjoy them. So in case you want to knit more vests, I will place a link in the program notes so you can visit the page on my website where this book is for sale and also fully described. If you did what I did and used a hat for your waist yarn, we have an extra step to do before we proceed. If not, skip this part. Before we do the ribbing, we need to make it so that the crown of the hat can be gathered in safely when I remove the hat when it's functioning as waist yarn, as you know. So if I just run the yarn tail that was associated with the top of the hat through the stitches at the top, and then proceed to hang the main vest, we can release that ravel cord, and I used something that comes on a cone and is disposable, so I can snip it if I need to for easy release. So step one, all the way across, catching the stitches involved in the hat. Then we'll separate it and move on. If you just used plain waist yarn, skip this step. Okay, here is the back of the garment. Here is the hat, also functioning as waist yarn. Here is the strand of yarn that was run through the live hat stitches that will eventually gather it in and finish the hat. And here is the row of ravel cord. I've divided it in two right here so that you can see the orientation better, because we're going to want to flip the hat away from us. You always hang in the same orientation that it was knitted. So I should be looking at the purl side, and I should qualify that statement. Usually you hang in the same orientation. For this project you do. There could be reasons why you desired to change directions, but there isn't one here. So what I'm going to do, and you won't be able to see it as well when I'm down there really doing it, is pick up the live stitches on this tool. Let me move over a little bit. This is a 7-prong tool. And you do not have to do what I'm going to do, which is to reduce the stitch count. Every time I pick up a new batch of 7, I'm going to put the rightmost one on the same needle as the last stitch on the previous batch of 7 was. So I'll be decreasing every 7th stitch. That is because this is a bulky yarn. It's chest size for the man wearing it, plus a little ease. And at the hip, he is much, much smaller. The majority of men, though not all, are. So since the ribbing, and I've already done the front, so you can see, ribbing in super bulky yarn doesn't pull in as much as it would knitted with a ribber at 2 or more sizes smaller. So you can see the decreases. There's one, but they are not terribly obvious, and it's going to make for a better fit around the waist and hips. Okay, let's do it. Exposing the real stitches for the front of the garment. Make sure you don't miss the edge one. What I did was put a temporary seam in so that I could look at the garment on the dress form and on the man. And I've just left it in but I didn't go quite to the top or the bottom of the side pieces so that I'd still have access to hang it again and create the ribbing. Okay, 7 stitches on there. I do not want that piece of the hat. I'm going to hang beginning with the last stitch from the previous batch of 7. And we're there. 7 more. Now, if you are not comfortable using a 7-prong tool or don't own one, it's really not a problem. I'm sure you have some sort of a tool. We can go 2 stitches at a time. And I doubled up the first one, 4, 6, 7. Doubling up the first of 2 on the needle that's already held a stitch. 4, 6, 7. We'll work all the way across like that. We're trying not to catch hold of the ravel cord. This is especially important if you want to be able to reuse your ravel cord. I do not care. This is a disposable cord. So if I accidentally catch it and have to snip it to free the 2 good pieces of knitting, that'll be okay with me. I call this afterthought ribbing or an afterthought hem because it is done at the completion of the garment rather than to begin, which is more traditional. And one reason that I like it is you get to decide at this point how much do you want to pull in. Another reason is that I think it's a little bit easier to do the hand manipulated ribbing when there's fabric down below it to hold on to. I ended up with an odd number of stitches, which is what I want. If you ended up with an even number, just to work 1 additional decrease right at or near the end. Go ahead and knit your ribbing rows. I decided on 14. At this weight of yarn, I think you want at least 8, and 16 to 20 would be okay. That's pretty much your call. How long do you like the ribbing? And you can adjust the fit of the garment and the length it falls to some degree with the ribbing. Do keep your weights adjusted so that they pull down evenly. Ladder down every other column of stitches and latch them back up, just as we do any time that we are knitting hand manipulated ribbing. Then bind off using any tidy method that you like. I used the transfer method. With the bind off complete, we can now separate the hat, which already has the gathering thread run through that top row of stitches, from the vest, and we'll get a wonderful twofer, a finished vest hem and an almost finished hat. I'll just pull this last little bit of ravel cord out, and voila. All that's left is to finish the seams and weave in the tails. There will be one more video showing you some finer points of doing those things when we're working with yarn this bulky.